on DeFi to ReFi. We have really incredible minds from the DeFi space. So given this day is about ReFi, which stands for regenerative finance, we figured we would do a panel about the transition. So let's start off with some intros. Maybe Stani, you can start, given you're all the way on the right.
GM, every ReFi degen. So I'm Stani, and I'm the CEO and founder at Aave. And Aave, we are a full-stack Web3 company, and we build decentralized protocols and applications on top as well. So the Aave protocol is a protocol where you can supply cryptographic assets and earn interest and borrow other assets from the protocol. We also built the Lens protocol, which is a decentralized social graph. And essentially, you can mint an on-chain profile and follow other profiles on-chain as well. That's all.
Cool. Hey, everyone. I'm Marek. I'm one of the co-founders of Celo. And so I think I'm unique in that I'm the only non-DeFi person here. Celo, as some of you know, is kind of mobile-first EVM-compatible blockchain. And there's a lot of exciting DeFi and ReFi happening on Celo, and so happy to chat about a little bit of that.
Hey guys, my name is Julien Bouteloup. I'm involved in founders and involved in a few different projects, such as Curve Finance, the auto market making for stablecoin. Stake DAO, it's a governance. We accumulate governance tokens for like treasury management. Rect News, the underlying like investigative firm in the DeFi space. We write articles and also like try to build some videos about the visions of this ecosystem, and also run Stake Capital, which is a family office in the space of DeFi. A quant, which is doing arbitrage, liquidations, and all different things in the DeFi, and also Blackpool. Blackpool is the investment firm and esport in the NFT market in the space.
Hey, I'm Pablo Veyrat. I'm a co-founder of the Angle protocol. It's a decentralized stablecoin protocol. I'm now a contributor to it. We have launched AG Euro, which is one of the biggest Euro stablecoin and the largest decentralized Euro stablecoins.
Great. Okay, so maybe to start, we can talk about what is most exciting about DeFi and the future of DeFi for each of your respective projects. And I think, Julien, if you want to kick us off, and then everyone can chime in.
Well, sorry, say again?
Most exciting thing in DeFi.
Yeah, okay. Well, for me, as a background in traditional finance and what's more exciting is the traditional financial products that being injected in like the work that this decentralized finance is doing to replicate the product of traditional finance, but then build on top of it. So exotic product, bonds, debts, and all different mechanisms. And actually trying to think outside the box to build new products in the DeFi, using DeFi. Because for now, we've been replicating the products that traditional finance has already created over the past decades. And how can we use DeFi to, I think Pablo is also specialized and going to give a talk today about counter-attacking the inflations and all the different mechanisms that traditional finance has failed to do over the past decades. How can we actually think outside the box as a community to create new products that the community hasn't thought the traditional finance couldn't do before because of this technological stack that we currently are running as a community?
What excites me the most is not DeFi, it's open finance. And this is where I see the real value of what we're doing. Like, decentralized finance is a subset of open finance. And what I like about the ecosystem is that we can completely reinvent the way finance works in a composable, fully open, transparent manner. And this is the real value of what we're doing. Like, the decentralized finance was the start of the ecosystem. It showed that we could replicate in a safer way than in traditional markets some keystones, like Aave showed that you could borrow safely assets using collateralized positions. So we've proven the resilience of DeFi, but now really the excitement for me, and I agree with Julien on that, is the fact that we'll be able to bring and to tokenize more and more real-world finance products And the next step after that will be to create use cases which we don't have yet in TradFi and create it in DeFi. One example I have in mind is the Forex market. It's a market that there are multiple feeds. It's a super inefficient market in TradFi. It's only open during the week. And in DeFi, you have the possibility to improve the way this market runs. And I'm excited to contribute with that as Angle, where we're making non-USD stablecoins and trying to bring a bit of Forex to DeFi.
I love the idea also about the FX aspect, because that's one of the biggest markets that has been trading in traditional finance. And now that we have other stablecoins than also the USD in on-chain environment, that's actually possible. And it supports quite well what we're doing in the Aave ecosystem. So the version 3 that we deployed a few months ago, we actually support this so-called high efficiency mode, where we can actually borrow different stable coins at 98% loan to value ratio, basic borrowing power. So you can actually do that FX trading as well. And this is very connected to the idea of many of these very battle-tested, very sound DeFi protocols actually getting more and more traction and taking the market share of what we've seen happening already in centralized finance and a bit of Wall Street, to be honest. So, for example, Uniswap is in pair at the moment with the volumes that, on a daily volumes that Coinbase is doing, which is pretty fucking amazing if you think about it. And I think this is going to continue even further. And also, I think maybe kind of like the next step is to take DeFi a bit further from our spectrum and take it to the kind of like a more organic usage. So in, for example, Argentina, the local currency has significant inflation, and there's quite significant stablecoin adoption at the moment. But the issue is that a lot of the stablecoin trading, or even like the crypto adoption or transfers, happens in a actually database. And does anyone know like what's the most used way to transfer crypto from one person to another? What the people in Argentina are using? Binance, exactly. So that just showcases that how much work we actually have to do. And layer 2s are actually something that will help us to bring more organic day-to-day usage for stablecoins as well. And that's very exciting to me.
It's cool. Yeah, if I were to think, definitely pretty excited about things that are not TradFi related. Of course, those are maybe hard to even kind of think up right now. And so it's going to be really exciting to see what comes about. But in terms of things that we do have in TradFi that I think we could do more of in DeFi, payments and under-collateralized lending feel like two pretty big ones. And I think the two go hand in hand, because if you think about uncollateralized lending, if you think about lending that we have today on Aave, on other chains, because you're, I guess, with the exception of the stablecoin example you just gave, always fully over-collateralized, it's more akin to a margin loan than a kind of loan that maybe you would take to, for example, buy a house or something like that. When you're doing a loan like that, you're actually borrowing not against the assets that you have, but against your future income. And what better way of being able to prove your future income than by having the income on-chain and using the on-chain data to actually prove that. And so I think these two things go hand in hand, and I'm just super excited for that future when there's more payments on-chain and more under-collateralized lending.
That's awesome. I love the stat right now that Coinbase and Uniswap are matched. Okay, so with that kind of transferring to ReFi, would anyone, one, want to give kind of a quick overview of where we're at with ReFi, and then two, share your thoughts of where things are today, and then why it's exciting as a sector?
Sure, I can take a stab. So I think ReFi summer has officially started, which is super exciting. I think there's now just an incredible amount of projects and protocols that have now either launched or are currently building, and they're doing a number of things that people consider regenerative. The thing that gets me really excited about regenerative finance is this idea that you can build protocols with positive externalities instead of negative externalities. And one really big place where this is now taking shape is in the climate change space. There's a lot of ReFi protocols that are particularly excited about helping build protocols that can help fight climate change. There's been some that have explored using protocol-controlled value. There's others that are just doing the tokenization and leaving it to other protocols to then do the composability to build on top of it. But it's just it's an exciting start.
Marek, do you want to quickly share what PCV is for people who don't know?
Yeah, how many people here are aware of PCV? Do you want to take it? Okay, protocol controlled value. It's a really interesting idea where you can have a DAO that effectively owns all of the liquidity for your protocol, which includes all of the LP positions in dexes that trade your particular asset. And by bringing in all of that liquidity, it allows you to have more aggressive emissions rates to an asset that ultimately then gives you access to or rights to a treasury that the DAO controls. And so the DAO basically builds a treasury of something and incentivizes through emissions people to buy into that treasury and to get rights to it. This, I think, Ohm, Olympus Protocol started this. There's been a number of forks to this. I think there was a lot of excitement in the early days. I think there's a lot less excitement now in this market. I think a lot of people, a lot of the, I think, hypotheses around this management of these treasuries didn't really pan out. But still, it was an experiment, and there's a lot of interesting experiments happening in DeFi that are, one of the nice things about programmable money is that we can experiment at this really high clip.
So I want to bounce on the idea of composability and of externalities. The thing that I like in the ecosystem is the fact that it's not a zero-sum game. So you can build protocols on top of the others, but even competitors for which you feel, protocols for which you feel that they would compete with each other, in fact, they are bringing value. So one example is, for instance, the Go token, the stablecoin that, if it is voted positively by the Aave governance, should be launched by Aave. So yeah, I think it's going to bring value to DAI, just like DAI is going to bring value to the Go token. And the fact that you can build intricate protocols on top of one another, it's a clear advantage. I mean, it's a clear, really opportunity you have in DeFi and of launching new protocols. It should encourage new people to launch protocols. So maybe on the DAI and Go stablecoin, DAI is going to help Go maintain its peg, and Go should help DAI maintain its peg through the GSM, I think. And it's not going to fragment liquidity. It's not going to take market share. It should take a portion of the market share. But in the end, they are all going to help each other maintain their peg, create some volume, and this is what you care when you're launching a stablecoin. So this is one example. For instance, for AG Euro, we have the Euro C launch. The Circle team announced the launch of the Euro stablecoin. It's already live. It's not a competitor to Angle. It's something most of the people told us, look, it's going to compete with you guys, but it's going to help us maintain our peg, and we will help them with use cases. We'll help them build things that they wouldn't be able to build as Circle, since they are a fully regulated company. So we'll be able to provide higher yields through different integrations we already have, and through different integrations we will build. So this is part of ReFi also for me, protocols not being in a zero-sum game, but positive-sum game.
But at the end, the only winner is AG Euro.
I'd like to, but it's not about it. What I care about is DeFi and ReFi winning versus TradFi, and not Angle. And
I think everyone is kind of a winner because everyone is building this diverse ecosystem, and it's very amazing. For example, what Angle is doing and Curve is doing here, and it's just and if you look at these different communities, they're essentially governed by their own community. So they have different kind of voting mechanisms and risk appetites that they're using. But essentially, you have this composability, what we heard. So you can build something that is using all of these applications. And also, I think one valuable thing to always recognize and has been very interesting for me is that it's not only like technical composability, but it's like the human composability, that these communities are working together. So essentially, the makers system had a way to distribute DAI directly to the Aave markets against a receivable of that Aave market. And the market, that just showcases like where two different DAOs are working together, and also the Aave community and Curve community are working in multiple ways. And I think this is something where is also kind of like transparent. We can see within the community what is happening. But it says a lot about us. So it's more of an ecosystem game where we need each other to actually survive. And it's very biological. And I think that's one of the reasons we are here. You know, it's an Ethereum conference, but actually it's beyond that. Like, it's not anymore about Ethereum. It's all the things that are happening everywhere, and all the networks and all the projects are supporting each other. And it's not something that is very natural. For example, ReFi for me is very new, and I'm super excited to see so many people here to talk about the topic and also to listen. So I'm super excited how things are going.
I just echo that it's amazing to see how many people are in this room. But going back to kind of like the PCV side and how we have seen a lot of experiments in DeFi, and one of the most fundamental benefits here is how quickly we can iterate. I'm curious if anybody thinks ReFi can benefit from other experiments that are perhaps less risky and maybe a little bit like struggle less with death spirals. I know you guys are all kind of on the cutting edge here, and I'm curious if you see anything in the pipeline in terms of more primitives that are going to be coming out in the next cycle.
Yeah, definitely. I think PCV was very clearly a failed experiment. I think in terms of less risky stuff, I mean, I think using ReFi collateral for lending, I think is particularly interesting. You know, I mentioned payments before. Payments and, you know, all stablecoin uses, I think, will continue to drive more real-world adoption that hopefully will be less tied to all of the crypto cycles. And I'm really personally excited by this idea of backing these stablecoins by ReFi assets. When we first started Celo, we were very inspired by this author, Charles Eisenstein, who, even before Bitcoin was written or built, had this idea that, you know, whatever backs money, people value more of in the world. And so why don't we back money by things that we want to see more of in the world? And so his idea was to put pristine rainforests and use that to back actual fiat money. Now, that's a really elegant idea, but back then, you know, it was just way too complicated to convince central banks to actually try this. But now, we're building a new financial system, and we can iterate way faster, and we can actually experiment with these ideas. And so putting ReFi assets, be it tokenized voluntary carbon offset credits, or even tokenized actual trees, or even other assets, that is a really exciting idea that I think can really lead to a more beautiful world. And I think it's way, way less risky than some of the experiments that have been done today. You know, I think one of the nice things about, you know, tokenized trees, for example, those are relatively stable in value, arguably more stable than some crypto assets that protocols have been using to back stablecoins today. So that's one area that I think is particularly compelling.
Yeah. Myself, before jumping into DeFi, I got into a project. I found a project called Flying Carpet. And that's how actually I got involved in the vision of Celo, because I think the Celo community is really pushing the boundaries of how we can make this world a better place, which was the original idea about blockchain before we got into a little bit too deep into DeFi. And now Celo is really pushing the DeFi primitive to how we can use and help society in a better way. So Flying Carpet was using using a blockchain and satellite to monitor forestry and use a concentration of carbon in forestry. And the idea was to tokenize, but back then there was not so much of a stable coin, so that was a little bit complicated. But was the analysis in real time, a concentration of carbon offset in different parts of the world, and then you can tokenize this and you can back, for example, in projects such as Centrifuge and other things like to back up stablecoin, for example, and create a new primitive of stablecoin. What I don't like in the, and I think it's very complicated, is to buy fiat, considering that fiat is going at speed of, it's the inflation speed of fiat is pretty big, so how you basically don't impact the thing that you try to collateralize. This is complicated with, for example, like carbon offset or other asset like real estate and all different things. But I think there's now, because we have all the different tools like stablecoin, and we can monitor real assets that you mentioned, how we can ReFi those tools, how we can use those ReFi tools to back up the different things that we're building. This is very fascinating to me.
One thing I'm pretty bullish about, like the tokenization of carbon credits, it's something which is a bit undermined as well. So we talked about tokenizing trees, but tokenizing carbon credits, normally when you have carbon credits, it's something which is positive. It means that you, as a company, you haven't spent, spent all the carbon you were allowed to spend. And this is something which is also interesting to tokenize and to use as a collateral for stablecoins, because basically it's an incentive for companies to pollute less, to give them more borrowing power in the real economy. So they could trade these assets, or they could take leverage positions against their carbon credits. So the less you pollute, the more you can borrow. And it's something which is pretty new, which could be pretty new and pretty innovative in DeFi, I guess.
Yeah, I've been also thinking of with this kind of like idea in mind, like having like green collaterals. So for example, based on what your collateral is and what is the carbon footprint out of it, or not just carbon, but anything that is important for the climate or the society affects the risk parameters, let's say in the Aave protocol, or also the interest rate. But also you could see some sort of yield aggregators built on top. And maybe they use, they basically have more usage in protocols which offset or reduce more carbon. And this is where blockchain is very good, because you can make that big impact and also kind of like let the users to vote with their feed what they're using. And second idea I've been thinking about is that normally when we have like money, let's say it's like physical or in databases, it's simply like value that you have, but it's like, I mean, when you look at the euro note bill, like what comes to your mind? It's basically just money, you can buy things. But as we have these different stable coins and assets on chain, not only like the collateralization idea, but the idea that that money can be attached with different kinds of values. And I think with the protocol control value, it's not completely, I would say, dead, because many of these protocols, Curve, Aave, and a bunch of others are actually collecting constantly revenue to their community, treasuries, or directly. And those treasuries, they can actually act with them by doing different kinds of good deeds. And you can actually attach that value, what you do as a community, into the money itself, and that helps to kind of like push more better network effects when it comes to not just stable coins, but how we use finance or any other products out there.
And those are some awesome ideas. We are a little bit close on time. I think let's do one more question, then we can open up to Q&A. And the question would be, if you had to make a prediction about either DeFi or ReFi in a tweet size statement, what would that be?
Okay, I'll offer some context for the tweet, and then I'll say the tweet. So
Allowed.
Stani said that we're going to have currencies that you can attach values to, and so again, stablecoins that help fight climate change are one example of this. And so I think, and we talked about payments becoming bigger. Here's a little self-custodial wallet in a card that you can tap to pay with. Uses NFC in order to pay with. And so assuming that you have one of these stablecoins that kind of ascribes to some value that you care about, in the future, you're going to be able to not just vote with your money, but also vote on the money that you're using to make those payments as you tap to pay. Maybe that's more than 280 characters.
I'm next.
No, but the expression I like a lot, I think it's from you, Stavi. You said DeFi is going to be the back end of CeFi. And I just want to retweet this because I fully agree on this. We won't make the difference between CeFi and DeFi. Like everything should be DeFi or open finance at some point. It's just going to be finance in a more composable and transparent way.
Tweet, maybe like, go. Let's go. That could be a good tweet.
I thought you were going to tweet about being new CEO.
I definitely love the idea of attaching value and our whole community becoming kind of like conscious about what we use, what reason, and what are those values. And I think also developers who are here probably will start building more applications where they have this component in mind. So let's say that you want to essentially aggregate capital into protocols that are doing more good things for our society. I think that could be very fascinating. And I think some of the DeFi protocols, there's some interesting kind of like donations already going. We saw something similar happened with the Ukraine, and that could be done globally. End of the day, blockchain is amazing way to distribute anything you want in terms of value, because you just need a phone and an internet connection, and you essentially have a way to receive value. And that's not the same case today with banking.
For me, I would like to see how this community can help fixing the issues that we're currently having as a society, rather than criticize the people that are either created those issues or running those issues. So I'm obviously making the correlation between the fiat system and the central bank and people making the inflations and how the society is positioned into this spinning wheel of inflationary system. But instead of criticizing the system, which is good, as a questioning ourselves that the system is not good, is not created, how can we help the system and not position ourselves as, oh, we are better than those guys, and this is why we are the solution. I think we are on the same boat at the end of the day, and ReFi and DeFi or traditional finance and regulators, I truly believe that we can, as a community, to tell them, listen, we're not going against you, but we just want to help the system. We want to make the society a better place. And that's I would like to see as a community rather than all fighting together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, so with that, I think we have time for 2-ish questions. If anyone has a question, feel free to raise your hand and we can maybe run you a mic. If not, you can yell. Yeah, sure. Whoever is in the back in the black shirt. Yeah. Yeah, I think just for now.
Definitely awesome that you're trying to fix probably the largest market failure our society has seen, which causes this summer being so hot and also causes some six messes. But how do we make sure that when everyone's now building these awesome, amazing green protocols, giving out carbon credits to the chain, that we're not falling victim of short-term profit and being used for greenwashing, right? How do we make sure that things which are decentralized are still somehow centralized and checked, such that there's trustworthy assets actually coming into and not misused by potentially short-term profit? Because there's still a market failure, right? There's still, you're not valuing enough biodiversity or carbon enough. We're valuing understandably short-term profit much more, so we want to put the price as small as possible, such that we have as much
Quick one, I think we need more bear markets, so then people focus on building and shipping rather than making economic profits. That's a good, we always build more during bear markets, that's a fact. And then the second point, I would say that we need to work closely with regulators to make sure that they regulate the space but not try to innovate, so they regulate the innovators. And if we work closely with them and make sure that they don't wreck us, and we don't try to make them disappear, in the sense that we need to understand as a community that we need regulations, because a lot of different things, a lot of different people are building stuff that are dangerous for the retail, and retail not necessarily understand those concepts. And the more people get wrecked, then the more traditional finance, they will be scared of the ecosystem. So we really need to work on educational courses and trying to educate the people to use the system, but also teach the people that are making the system that what we're building is safe and is going to make the system a better and stronger mechanism.
Yeah, plus one to that. And one thing that I think will help with some of these failures and inefficiencies that you've mentioned really is the transparency that comes with public blockchains. If you look at the voluntary carbon offset credit market today, I think the certification part seems to be going okay, but it seems like there's a lot of double spending that's happening in these markets right now. And public chains are a really great way of limiting that kind of behavior. And then, there's also a lot of lack of transparency in price discovery in these markets today, because they're traded not on public exchanges, and I think DEXs really help with that. So I think, yes, we need to definitely be thoughtful as we embark on this, but I do think that we have a big advantage simply by being on public, open, auditable chains.
I think we need to improve a bit DAO governance. Like if you have a protocol that has a huge treasury that can invest to do some public good, you need some people to agree, and you need some adversarial discussions to know like what this public good is. Like sometimes you have consensus among some people who say, oh, this is a public good, but it may not be a public good for myself, and I wanted to fund other projects, or maybe I don't care about climate change, but I care about animal sufferings. So you need, the more decentralized you are, you need to create a culture of consensus in DeFi protocols. So far, like consensus exists. There are fully decentralized protocols, but there are some token holders who can have sufficient votes which weigh a lot in the balance. They should not be deciding for the whole. So maybe improving a bit DAO governance to make it more balanced, more adversarial, could improve and make sure that interests are more aligned and that we focus on more long-term decisions.
It's interesting. Over the past few years, I realized that myself, I want less DAOs and I want more token holders, because DAOs are time consuming, and it's really strange. Like over the past few years, we've been pushing DAOs, and now DAOs are like it's a mechanism that's slow, and it's always fighting with the people that are not believing in the vision you're building, and they're economically incentivized to build something that not necessarily the vision of the product you're building. But token holders, in the sense that having no DAO, but trying to help the community, is a different concept. I think we'll see an evolution in the community of having less centralized entity as a DAO, but more as value creation across many different protocols, and less centralized to this is a DAO, this is a DAO, this is a DAO, but more like as a protocol, like using the entire products and people participating in the entire system. It's something that I've been thinking over time, but you're operating a DAO, it's consuming, it's like you don't sleep, I think most of the burnout in this ecosystem is running a fucking DAO. I mean, seriously, myself as well. I'm not sure. What's your experience of running a DAO?
No, I love the idea of actually governance minimization, because there's usually like a team or multiple teams behind a particular protocol, and if you have to pass everything you are building to a big consensus, it's very challenging to achieve. And then you fight with different kinds of stakeholders. What might be like what's the way to go? And we see this happen like extremely well in MakerDAO community, because obviously it's one of the oldest DAOs out there in DeFi. But I would definitely love to see also some sort of like a consent protocol where, you don't necessarily need the whole consensus, but, if someone has a better idea, they can actually propose it. But if you don't agree with some decisions, you simply consent to move onwards. And of course, some sort of a delegation as well that, some parts of the DAO, different parts could be delegated to different teams and who could actually go a bit more faster. And at the end of the day, it's the token holders that have the decision. It just makes things more easier for the builders like us.
Yeah, the question is, what can kind of like the people within DeFi or the degens give to this new space of ReFi, and what can we learn? Is that correct? Okay. In a specifically, I think, a requested tweet form.
Yeah, I would say let's use the power of composability that DeFi has used so well for ReFi.
Very nice.
I'd say positive sum games and just collaborate. That's the thing in common.
There's some very good parties at the DeFi community. There's a lot degen and there's Aave coming, so I think we need those more.
Yeah, definitely. If you go to Rave, Aave, and a degen, I think you're in a good place.
What's a ReFi Aave look like?
I don't know. Will it be in Tulum? No. No, that's for the Bitcoin people. I think something where like everything is based on those like good values, like everything that is supplied there, and I don't know, maybe like the DJs will fly in, will offset their carbon, and maybe they plant a few trees as well, and we have everything on chain as well. So I mean, a lot of things can be done.
Okay, great. I think that's an awesome place to close. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.